what I've done was to discontinue anything that had glucose. Glucose is the underlying enemy. Whenever you indulge in glucose, it would be difficult to lose fat. I live in Honduras and California. In Honduras, I discovered a plant known as cusca.
Okay.
Cusca is a plant that the Maya used to use, and they used another one known as the teosinte.
Okay.
I eat those plants. Those plants does not have starch or glucose. You will look at your body losing weight and you're going to get frightened. I remember reading on the agave label that it was the only glucose-free.
Yes.
It's not like sugar,
Right.
which have glycerinic acid.
Yes.
So agave coming from a natural source cannot have glycerinic acid. That only comes from cane.
When you consume refined carbohydrates, and especially sugary beverages which have zero fiber, okay? Now you have no fiber for protection. It's literally like taking sugar in your hand and throwing it into the blood, which is gonna make the insulin levels spike. So hugely important. We wanna stay away from the sugary beverages, even the zero beverages. So when you see those Coke Zeros and whatever zeros, it may say no sugar, no carbs. Guess what? It has an artificial sweetener in it. And that artificial sweetener triggers you to eat more. That artificial sweetener actually has been proven in science, even though it technically doesn't have any carbs or sugar in it, it increases your risk for diabetes.
Yes, he's right. What if I tell you that the sugar substitutes you trust to stay healthy are doing more harm than good? For decades, artificial sweeteners like aspartame and sucralose have been marketed as the guilt-free solution to our sugar addiction. But beneath the promises of 0 calories and safe alternatives lies a story of hidden health risks that might make you rethink your daily choices. Experts like Dr. Bobby Price and the late Dr. Sebi have spent years uncovering the unsettling truth behind these sweeteners, linking them to issues like metabolic disruption, gut health damage, and even long-term disease. So why are these chemicals still being sold as healthy? And who's really benefiting from the sweetener industry? In this video, we'll dive deep into the science, expose the marketing myths, and reveal what these sweet additives could be doing to your body. If you care about your health, you need to see this.
By far, the most dangerous of those foods is sugar. And the reason why it's so dangerous is because if you look out in nature, you don't find a sugar tree, sugar bush, sugar branch. It just doesn't exist. And so we have to pull it out of something. We have to pull sugars out of beet. We have to pull it out of cane, or we manufacture it and call it high fructose corn syrup. And so what happens is our body's primary fuel is sugar, but what we're putting in our body is not the way that our body was designed to receive sugar. When you look at it inside of fruits, for instance, fruits have fiber attached to sugar. So what happens when you eat it, the sugar is being released slowly, which is healthy for it. It gives the insulin time to come grab it up, take it to the muscle and say, hey, you go inside of there, give the muscle some energy. But when you don't have that fiber there, it's like literally taking wads of money and like throwing it out in the blood. And the insulin is like, I don't know what to do with it. So that's why diabetes is so prevalent.
That's why food industry has been using artificial sweeteners for a long time, saying that they are healthy and anti-diabetic. Two names amongst these sweeteners are pretty common: aspartame and sucralose. But do you have any idea what they originally are? Back in the 1960s, a chemist named James Schlatter was working on an anti-ulcer drug when he accidentally licked his finger, quite unmindful of him, and then discovered something crazy. This compound was insanely sweet, 200 times sweeter than sugar. It was aspartame. At first, people were like, this could be awesome. The FDA also gave it the green light in 1974, but then concerns popped up. Could it cause cancer? So, approvals got paused, tests got serious, and it wasn't until 1981 that aspartame was back in the game, starting with dry foods and then soft drinks by 1983. People loved it because it had almost no calories but still gave that sugary kick. The only catch? If you have PKU, you need to avoid it. Sucralose, on the other hand, came along in the 1970s thanks to some scientists at Tate and Lyle who were messing around with sugar molecules. One of them misunderstood instructions to test a compound and instead tasted it. Turns out it was 600 times sweeter than sugar. Sucralose, aka Splenda, hit the big time in 1998 when the FDA gave it the go-ahead. Its secret weapon? It's heat stable, so you can bake or cook with it without losing sweetness. Plus, your body doesn't break it down, so it's got 0 calories. So, big brands jumped on board, launching diet drinks and light snacks. Today, whether you're sipping diet soda or baking sugar-free cookies, these sweeteners are everywhere. People have been using it forever, and it's been approved by the FDA, WHO, and other big health agencies. But the funny thing is, people still argue about whether it's actually safe. Some research says aspartame might make you gain weight, mess with your heart, or even increase your risk for diabetes. Some scientists also think it messes with how your body signals hunger or regulates blood sugar, especially if you're overweight. On top of that, some animal studies have shown it might ruin your metabolism or gut bacteria. That's why they performed a short-term experiment on mice. It has shown it can mess with blood, and long-term tests suggest it could even cause nerve damage. What's shocking is that it's been labeled possibly carcinogenic by the International Agency for Research on Cancer, IARC, because of some weak links to liver and stomach cancer in animals. But the joint FAO-WHO Expert Committee on Food Additives, JECFA, says it's safe at the levels most people consume. However, if you have phenylketonuria, PKU, you should stay away from it because of something called phenylalanine. If we talk about sucralose, which you probably know as Splenda, it's also calorie-free. It doesn't really affect blood sugar or insulin for most people, though some research says it might spoil your insulin sensitivity. People are also concerned about how it holds up when you cook with it at high temperatures. Some studies suggest it could break down and form harmful compounds. Short-term studies show sucralose doesn't seem to harm gut bacteria, but longer studies in animals suggest it might. On top of all that, there are worries about neurological problems because aspartame breaks down into phenylalanine, methanol, and aspartic acid, which can mess with how your brain works.
Zero products that says it doesn't have any calories and any sugars, those sugars are very dangerous too. As a matter of fact, those artificial sugars are neurotoxins. They're toxins to the brain, specifically aspartame, which is a very common sugar found in many ultra-processed foods. It impacts the production of serotonin and dopamine. Serotonin, again, the happy molecule. Dopamine is that molecule that is released that gives us a feeling of reward, like we accomplished something. So it affects the production of both of those, and it increases cortisol, which is a stress hormone. So that's hugely important too. And these type of sugars actually increase the risk for diabetes, which I told you is also connected with brain disorders like Alzheimer's, but also depression and anxiety as well too.
Some people report headaches, mood swings, and even memory problems, though not everyone experiences this, and we still don't have solid proof that it causes those issues. At the end of the day, with all the emerging research, it might be a good idea to approach them cautiously and not make them your go-to for sweetening everything. But you see, the FDA has already given a thumbs up to sweeteners like aspartame, sucralose, and saccharin, saying they're 100% safe to use in food and drinks. To get that approval, these sweeteners are supposed to go through a pretty intense review process. But reality? Listen from him.
The food is so toxic today is because the FDA, Food and Drug Administration, FDA, is not FDAing. They're not doing their job. They're responsible, what they should be responsible for, if that's what Food and Drug Administration, they're supposed to be responsible for what foods should not only be considered foods, but also what is deemed safe. Okay? And America's food is banned in 30 countries, but approved here in America.
Take aspartame, for example. It's in a lot of diet sodas and sugar-free snacks, but it's been the subject of major debates as some early studies made people freak out, claiming aspartame might be linked to cancer or brain issues. But over time, more research has come out saying that aspartame is actually safe to consume, even for pregnant women and kids, as long as you don't go overboard. When it came to sucralose, the FDA said it's good to go because our bodies don't actually absorb it. It just passes through. But there are a few studies that raise eyebrows. suggesting it might mess with your gut health or create nasty byproducts if you heat it up too much. Now, saccharin, this one's interesting. It's been around for ages, but it used to have a terrible reputation because of some old studies that linked it to cancer in rats. But more recent research has cleared saccharin, saying it doesn't pose a cancer risk to humans. So the warning on it was finally dropped. So it's a bit of a mixed bag. Some people swear by sweeteners for cutting back on sugar and managing their weight, while others aren't convinced they're as harmless as the FDA says, because the FDA has a lot of interest in the food industry's profitability as well. Why did the food industry really jump on the whole low-calorie bandwagon? All because more people are trying to eat healthier without giving up the foods they love. They figured out how to make a ton of money from this trend, and it's all thanks to a few key things: diet fads, the growing awareness about obesity, and some clever marketing.
So when you look at most of the clinical data that is out there and the studies that are being created, it's being created by the food industry itself. And as I told you before, their primary priority is their bottom line. So they're going to create studies that are in alignment with their products. And this is what's important. They're not doing this individually. So General Mills isn't just making a study by itself. General Mills that knows that it's using the same sugar that Coca-Cola is. So guess what? These companies are getting together to fund these studies. These are billion dollar companies that amount to trillions when you put them together collectively.
One of the biggest ways they make money is by using artificial sweeteners and other low-calorie substitutes. You know, things like aspartame, sucralose. These sweeteners let them keep the taste sweet but without the calories, and they're usually cheaper than regular sugar, which means the companies get to pocket more cash. These days, everyone's focused on dieting and staying in shape, so when a brand offers low-calorie options, it can make them look like the go-to choice for anyone wanting to stay healthy. Through clever ads, they make it seem like these products are a must-have if you're trying to eat well and keep your calorie count low. Then there's the whole guilt-free snack idea. People are more conscious about what they eat and want to avoid anything that seems unhealthy or fattening, but they still want to enjoy their food. So, these products are making the companies a lot of money. You won't believe that the low-calorie sweetener market alone is expected to hit $46 billion by 2032. This is how it's happening. In the US, more people are turning to these sweeteners as obesity rates keep rising, while in places like Germany, people are opting for lower sugar desserts. And in China, with the rising number of people with diabetes, there's a big demand for these sugar alternatives. As a result, big names like DuPont and Nestlé are making moves to expand their market presence, even buying up smaller companies like Tate and Lyle buying Sweet Green Fields to get a piece of the action in the growing Asia-Pacific market. It's more about money and less about your health.
Then you get an ethical study created by somebody who's an independent author or independent scientist, maybe myself, maybe somebody else. And we don't have an inkling of the funding that they have. And then we create this study that shows that their study is not only flawed, but their study is neglectful and intentionally wrong. And guess what? They go right back to the drawing board, create 10 other studies, hire the top scientists at Harvard and Cornell and so forth to refute me, go against me, and then put it in esteemed journals and newspapers and media. And then I look like the crazy person. That's exactly how it happens over and over again. All right.
For this reason, Dr. Sebi had a unique approach when it came to food, especially when it came to sugar. He didn't think the regular sugar we usually eat is good for us. Instead, he was all about natural sugars, like agave syrup and date sugar. He believed these were much healthier options that our bodies could actually benefit from.
Agave may have a very bad reputation by many. It's like moringa have a very high reputation by many, but it is a hybrid.
Yes.
Agave is not a hybrid. Agave is a cactus that comes from the desert.
Let's start with agave syrup. It's made from the agave plant, and here's why Dr. Sebi was a fan of it. It has a much lower glycemic index compared to regular sugar, meaning it doesn't cause the same sugar spikes. This makes it a great option for people trying to manage their blood sugar levels, like those with diabetes. It also keeps your energy levels stable, so you don't get that sugar crash after a sweet treat. Then, there's date sugar. This one's made by drying and grinding up dates, and it's packed with good stuff. It's full of fiber, which helps with digestion, and it's got potassium and magnesium, both important minerals for the body. What's great about date sugar is that it doesn't raise your blood sugar quickly like regular sugar, which means it gives you energy in a steady, sustainable way. Plus, it's completely natural. No added chemicals, nothing processed. Just pure, wholesome sweetness. Dr. Sebi believed that using these natural sweeteners, like agave and date sugar, would help us stay healthy, keep inflammation in check, and even support our body's natural detox process. But what are your options for natural sweeteners instead of regular sugar? First up, we have sugar alcohols like erythritol and xylitol. They're low-calorie and come from plants, which sounds good, but they're not totally harmless. If you eat too much, they can mess with your stomach and cause some digestive issues. And with erythritol, there's that whole study that links it to heart risks. So, maybe it's better to keep it in moderation. Next is stevia, which is a plant-based sweetener. Stevia is super sweet, so you only need a tiny bit. It's also got a low glycemic index, which means it won't spike your blood sugar or insulin. That makes it a solid choice for managing your weight, or if you're diabetic. But here's the catch. It can mess with your cravings. You might end up wanting more sweets, even though stevia doesn't raise your blood sugar. Plus, some stevia products are mixed with erythritol, so you still need to be careful. Then there's agave, which comes from a plant like tequila. Yep, that's the one. It's super sweet too, so you don't need much, and it has a low glycemic index, thanks to its high fructose content. But, and this is important, too much agave can create problems in your liver and increase your triglycerides, which is bad for your health. Coconut sugar is another popular option. It's made from the sap of coconut trees and isn't as processed as regular sugar. It's also got a lower glycemic index, so it's a little easier on your blood sugar levels. Plus, it has some vitamins and antioxidants, so it's not all bad.
If you make the milk from the mature coconut, a hard coconut, you make the milk and you drink it, it would be good. But when you add fire to it, you begin to change the molecular structure and you break it down or surface and it's gonna hurt you.
Date sugar is cool because it's pretty much just ground up dates, so it keeps a lot of the fiber and nutrients from the fruit. It's a bit on the sweet side, but it's still a healthier alternative to regular sugar. Monk fruit is another sweetener that's worth considering. It's 0 calorie and doesn't mess with your blood sugar. Plus, it has antioxidants and might even have anti-cancer benefits. But just like stevia, it's often mixed with erythritol, so watch how much you're using. Fruit purees, like those made from bananas or apples, can be a great way to sweeten up your food without loading up on extra calories. They've got fiber, water, and nutrients that make them a much healthier option for baking or topping your dishes. Finally, honey and maple syrup are pretty tasty and come with some health perks. Honey, especially raw honey, has some antibacterial properties and is packed with antioxidants. Maple syrup, on the other hand, has a bunch of cancer-fighting compounds and can help control blood sugar spikes. If you're looking for something with more vitamins and minerals, blackstrap molasses could be up your alley. It's a bit more bitter than regular molasses, but it's full of iron, magnesium, and other nutrients. It also has a lower glycemic index. And not only Dr. Sebi, even other important figures like Dr. Bobby Price also recommends these kinds of natural sweeteners.
This is the case in point where you mentioned before, all things aren't created equal. All carbs aren't created equal.
No, they're not.
You know, so like when you're eating pastas, breads, and cookies and cakes, that's not the same as when you're eating tropical fruit. It's not the same as when you're eating ancient grains. It's not the same as when you're eating green leafy vegetables, which are carbs.
Exactly.
And it's the same thing when it comes to sugars. All sugars aren't created equal. So if you take high fructose corn syrup over here, and then you're taking the sugar that is actually in fruit over here, two totally different sugars.
Different things.
And so it's important for people to know that although things are quite often, the labels that are placed on them are the same, it doesn't mean that they're not that they are the same. You know, really important.
He believes that all these synthetic chemicals, like preservatives, food colorings, and fake sweeteners, are more harmful than we realize. Over time, they can mess with our body in ways we don't always notice right away. Things like causing allergies, upsetting our digestion, or even messing with our hormones. His point is, our bodies weren't built to handle all these artificial ingredients, and if we keep taking them in, they can pile up and make us sick in the long run. He's also big on using natural remedies instead of popping pills every time something's wrong. For everyday aches and pains, Dr. Price would rather turn to nature. Think herbs, essential oils, and natural supplements that help our bodies heal on their own. He's not a fan of quick fixes that might bring along side effects, and he thinks our bodies are way smarter than we give them credit for when we let them heal with the right support. His overall message, living naturally, staying away from the fake stuff, and giving your body the tools it needs to stay balanced, is the way to go.
All protein initially comes from plants. Okay? I want you to think about this for just a moment. What are the 3 primary animals that people eat?
Chicken, beef, fish.
Pork. Okay. You look at all of those animals, are any of them carnivores?
No.
None of them eat meat. So if you're eating something that didn't require meat to build its own protein, then why do you need to eat that to create your own protein?
But you know what's the problem with us? We always listen to their advice in YouTube videos like this and then pick up a bottle of soda or a pack of sugar-free gum, which is plastered with labels claiming 0 calories or low glycemic index. The marketing makes these artificial sweeteners look like the perfect solution for anyone trying to lose weight or manage their blood sugar. But here's the catch. That's only part of the story. These products are often marketed as healthier, but they don't always tell you about the hidden downsides. For example, some studies suggest that long-term use of artificial sweeteners might mess with your metabolism, increase your cravings for sweet foods, or even mess with the bacteria in your gut. But all we care about the healthy image that is pushed front and center, making people think they're making the right choice without ever knowing the full picture. That's why we really need more research on these sweeteners. Right now, the studies are all over the place. Some say they're harmless, others suggest they could be doing more harm than good. But because the research isn't crystal clear, most of us are left in the dark, wondering if these sweeteners are actually safe for the long haul. What we need is more independent, in-depth studies that can give us some straight answers. People deserve to know what they're putting in their bodies, not just be swayed by fancy ads. Until we have more facts, it's tough to make the best decision for our health. And for that,
because most politicians, unfortunately, are corrupt, and they are the people that are creating the regulations. What we need to do is run these companies out of business who aren't willing to have ethical standards around food.
now if you're thinking, okay, so what should I use instead? Well, there are plenty of natural alternatives that are both tasty and better for you. Think stevia, monk fruit, or even raw honey. These options give you that sweet kick without all the worries. It's easy to swap out sugar for stevia in your coffee, or use a bit of honey in your smoothies. And if you're baking, why not try dates or bananas to add a natural sweetness? Not only do they taste great, but you're also avoiding all the weird chemicals and additives that come with artificial sweeteners. It's all about making small changes to keep things sweet without the side effects. Plus, try to maintain what Dr. Price recommends.
Number one, grow your own food. Number two, start to buy food from ethical farmers like myself. So as you guys know, at our Fruit Box, we sell tropical fruit. Okay, tropical fruit being things like soursop, naseberry, star apple, sugar apple, mangoes. We sell tropical fruit on my farm, all right? And the beautiful thing about it is that all the fruits are seeded, so no seedless fruit. All of them are seasonal. So if it's not in season, guess what? We're not selling it because it's not in season. All the fruits are grown organically as well too.
So, are you unknowingly compromising your health with artificial sweeteners? What's your take on natural versus artificial options? Share your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe for more eye-opening health insights. See you soon.